Thanks for joining me today, guys and gals. Today we're going to talk about connotation and denotation. I know you're excited, so let's get started. Today is about unlocking the hidden meaning in words. And there are hidden meaning in words, even if you don't realize it. You use words a certain way to either be positive or negative. And you choose those words very carefully, especially as teenagers. I know you do. So, without further ado, let's get started on connotation and denotation. People often confuse denotation and connotation, and for good reason. First of all, they sound like similar words. And second of all, I don't know that a lot of people know that what they're doing when they purposely choose a word to sound super negative, that they're actually using connotation. So that's why I think there's some confusion with this. So let's take a look at what it actually means for something to have denotation. The denotation of a word is the literal meaning of a word or phrase. This is the actual definition that you're going to find in the dictionary of a word. On the other hand, we have connotation, which is totally different. Connotation is the idea or emotion that we associate with the word. What does that mean? It means that connotation could be positive, negative, or neutral, and will contribute to your tone. Now you know what I'm talking about, because I'm sure you have all heard that. You don't use that tone with me. Or it could just be an alternate word choice. There's lots of reasons that we may attribute connotation to a word, or we may choose a specific word over another word. It could just be your mood. It could be the point you're trying to make. But the point I'm trying to make is that the denotation is the literal meaning of a word or phrase, and connotation is that emotion that sometimes gets attached to words. So let's take a quick look at this definition here. A chemical substance used in the treatment, cure, prevention, or diagnosis of disease, or used to otherwise enhance physical or mental well-being. What does that sound like we're describing here? A habit-forming substance, especially a narcotic, that is illegal in nature and causes severe adverse side effects after prolonged use. Now, what does it sound like we're describing? These are actual definitions, which is why it's the denotation of something we know as drugs. If you look drugs up in the dictionary, you're going to find these two definitions. This is the denotation of drugs. It's the actual definition of drugs. But when we use the word drugs, we can attach connotation to it, and that's emotion or kind of meaning between the lines, that type of a thing. The same word can be positive or negative depending on how you use it, and let me show you why. Over on the left side, we're going to show you a negative connotation. Now, you can say to somebody who's acting nutty or who's moody or who just doesn't look like they're really taking care of themselves, hey, you need to lay off the drugs. Hey, what are you on, drugs? And that's a negative attachment to that word drugs. But are drugs always bad? Are they always negative? Or did we just choose to use that word in a negative way? We chose to use it in a negative way because on the flip side, we have the positive connotation, and we could say to somebody, oh, the doctor put you on prescription drugs. And that's a very different use of the word. This nurse did not show up and say, yo, lady, I have your fix of drugs. That's a negative way to use that word. She showed up with her prescription drugs, which are meant to help her. So what's a more positive synonym you would use to change the tone of this word? If you are using it negatively, obviously you know how to do that. But if you wanted to say to somebody, oh, you're on prescription drugs, that doesn't sound positive. But when you use the synonym medication, it turns it into a very positive connotation. Oh, you're on prescription medication. So depending on which word you use, depending on which connotation you attach to it, it could either be positive or negative. Let's look at another example, a more fun one. It's kind of a heavy one. You're acting like a child. We've all heard that. Again, that can be positive or negative depending on how you use it, right? We've all heard that said to us. So the denotation of child is of, like, or befitting a child, puerile, weak, or silly. That's a child. That's the actual definition of a child. But what if we wanted to use it negatively? You're all going to hate me for this picture I'm about to show you, but it's funny. If you said to this person, you're acting like a child, you're using the word child negatively. So what more positive synonym would you use to change the tone of this word if you really were laughing at her, which I do. I just think that that's the silliest picture ever. And there you go. I'm not angry that she's acting like a child. I think she's being silly, which is kind of funny. Alright? Now, on the opposite, we have the positive connotation, and if you say, oh my gosh, they're acting, look at how wonderful it is to just see children acting like children. Now you're saying it positively. Children having fun and being children. On the other hand, we're talking about being bratty or just childish. On this side, on the right side, you're talking about children being children. So you can see how we can attach both a negative and positive meaning to the word child. So that brings us to a word that can mean something different depending on how you use it. And those other words really did do that, but it was more positive versus negative. Now here we have, why so blue? We've all heard that. Why so blue, Pooh? So on one side of the spectrum, we have the denotation, which means you're blue. That's, if you said that to somebody who was blue, you would mean it. Like dictionary definition. Why so blue? And you would mean you're blue. But nobody ever says that, because who's ever blue? Not many people. But on the other side, you have the connotation, which attaches emotion to it. So you're not asking somebody why they are the color blue. You're attaching connotation. You're saying, why are you blue? And that's the emotional connotation attached with the word. So that brings us to, it's all about word choice, a little activity for us to complete together. Well, kind of together. You're over there, I'm over here, you're kind of watching the video, but you can do this. You can participate at home. I feel like a game show host. So let's choose the better word. Actually, not the more appropriate word for the message you're trying to convey, for your tone, for your emotions. Are you ready? You're concerned about a friend's eating habits and worry that they are unhealthy. Now, if you're angry with her because you've spoken to her about it before, you might say, you know, you're completely emaciated. This is ridiculous. That's negative. But if you said, wow, you're looking kind of slender, that becomes more positive and you're not attacking her. You're describing a person that put herself through college while working a full-time job. Would you say they're determined or stubborn? Both of those words mean the same thing, but determined is a much more positive word than stubborn. Stubborn always has this negative attachment to it. You choose a particular teacher because he or she has high expectations for his students and is arduous or challenging. Arduous is kind of a negative connotation because it means that they are difficult. And overly difficult. But challenging is kind of a positive word because you want to be challenged, right? Your friend is swatting at imaginary flies and arguing with herself. Her behavior is it bizarre or original? It depends on how you feel about this behavior. Is it truly bizarre, which is a little negative, or is it just original and you're like, oh, that's cute, that's original? Depends. And finally, you were trying to pay attention in class, but your blank friend was distracting. Would you say loquacious or social? If you said social, that would be more positive, like, oh, he's so social. He just wants to talk to me. But if you said, you are so loquacious, you're clearly aggravated by all the chattiness. So that leaves me with my final funny for the day. Why won't anyone believe me for the last time I'm not a nut? Laugh. It's funny. A nut in a straitjacket. Come on. All right, so that sums it all up for us right there. He is a nut. We're looking at him. He's a nut. But is he nuts? There's a different meaning there. Think about it, everybody. I'll see you in class.